The sky over Carthloon burned the color of old copper, streaked with slow-moving clouds that looked like bruises spreading across the heavens. Daniel Mercer tasted iron in the air every time he breathed. It clung to the back of his throat, metallic and dry, like blood left too long in the sun. He kept his helmet clipped to his belt anyway. The aliens had warned him, "A, remove your seals. Show trust or leave our lands." Daniel stood at the edge of the herd grounds, boots sinking slightly into red dust. Massive shapes moved beyond the stone markers, hundreds of six-limbed grazers with ribbed hides and sweeping horn crests, their low, resonant calls vibrating through the ground. The herd was wealth here, life, power, water, and water was exactly why he was here. Behind him, the human shuttle squatted half-buried in dust, scarred from a rough landing. No weapons visible. That had been another condition. Across from him stood the alien warrior. She was taller than him by a head, armored in layered bone plates etched with ritual scars. Her skin shimmered dark violet beneath the plates, eyes like polished amber fixed unblinkingly on him. A polearm rested easily in her grasp, its edge humming faintly with contained energy. Va Rin of the Talarak Herd Guard. "You will kneel," she said, her voice a clicking resonance shaped into trade common. "You will offer, or you will be driven away." Daniel swallowed. Kneeling wasn't standard human diplomatic protocol. But then again, neither was dying of dehydration on an alien world because your colony ship got shot down by Pirates 3, systems off course. He exhaled slowly and knelt. The dust coated his trousers immediately. Va Rin watched unreadable. Behind her, other Talarak warriors waited in silence, weapons ready, tails twitching in barely restrained tension. They smelled faintly of ozone and musk, sharp and alien. Daniel reached into his pack and withdrew a small, clear canteen. Standard issue, recycled water, filtered and purified down to molecular cleanliness. Priceless on Cartholan. "This is our offering," he said, holding it out with both hands. Water, clean. A murmur rippled through the aliens. Va Rin stepped forward, eyes narrowing. "You offer insult," she said. "You bring your water to the herd of rivers." Daniel shook his head. "No, I bring proof." He twisted the cap and held it closer, letting the faint light refract through the crystal-clear liquid. Va Rin hesitated. Slowly, she extended one clawed finger and dipped it in, drew it back, tasted. Her eyes widened just a fraction. "Impossible," she whispered. The Talarak knew water. They worshipped it. Their rivers were sacred, their wells guarded by blood and bone. But their water was alive, full of minerals, organisms, history. This was empty, perfect, untouched. Daniel held his breath. Va Rin straightened. "This water would poison the herd," she declared suddenly, voice sharp. "It has no strength, no spirit." The warriors shifted, weapons angling. Daniel's heart hammered. "It won't," he said quickly. "It's safe. For us, it's life." "For you," Varen snapped. "Humans are soft-fleshed, weak. You fear what strengthens us." That stung more than he expected. She gestured to a stone basin nearby, filled with murky, sediment-rich water drawn from the herd's river. The smell hit him immediately, heavy, organic, alive with unseen things. "You wish water," she said. "Drink ours. Prove your flesh can endure. Then we will consider your plea." The basin might as well have been a death sentence. His suit filters could handle it, but without the helmet, Daniel looked at the water. Then at his canteen. Then back at Varen, slowly, deliberately lifted the canteen to his own lips. The warriors hissed in alarm. Varen's eyes flared. "You would waste it." Daniel tilted the canteen and drank deeply. Cool, clean water slid down his throat, washing away the metallic taste of the air. He finished it, every last drop. Then he turned the empty canteen upside down so they could see Dot. Silence crashed over the herd grounds. Va Rin stared at him, stunned. "You drank the offering." Daniel wiped his mouth with the back of his hand and met her gaze. "Suit yourself," he said calmly. "I'll take my chances with yours." And he reached for the basin. Va Rin's grip tightened on her weapon. The herd stirred. The sky seemed to darken. Daniel crouched beside the stone basin, the murky water rippling at his fingertips. Varen's amber eyes narrowed, But she did not stop him. Around them, the Talaric warriors shifted, tails flicking and claws scraping against stone. The air smelled of iron and wet moss. Alive with the herd's deep hum, he lowered his hands to cup the water, hesitated, and then drank. Thick, earthy, and alive. Every swallow tasted like moving rivers, like mineral and history and life itself. His stomach churned, but his training kicked in. He forced it down, tasted every strand of alien microbiota, and survived. Va Rin took a step forward. "You endure what soft flesh should not," she said, her voice still sharp, tinged with awe. "Why?" Daniel wiped his lips. "Because if I don't, humans die. Your water, your herd, your planet. It all matters. Not just to you," her head tilted. It was the closest thing he'd seen to curiosity in a Talaric expression. Then she gestured to the stones marking the herd's grazing zones. "You would survive among us." "Among the herd?" He raised an eyebrow. "I survive. That's what humans do." Varen studied him a long moment, then turned and clacked her claws on the stone. The herd shifted. Daniel felt the vibrations through the ground. From behind her, other Talaric stepped forward, some carrying weapons, some simply observing. One of them, smaller than Varen, but equally armored, stepped close. Its voice was a low, vibrating hum. "You come from You speak boldly to her. Why should we trust you?" "Because I have no choice," Daniel said. "We need water. Your rivers are clean. I can work with that. I can help you tug your technology, your patrols, your defenses. Humans are resourceful." The alien hesitated, glancing at Varen. Resourceful. Or reckless. Daniel smirked, though his stomach was twisting from the alien water. "Yes," Varen raised a claw. "Enough. He may speak human bravado, but his actions are what matters. Follow me." Before he could protest, Daniel was moving alongside her, weaving between massive grazing creatures that flicked their tails and snorted. The herd's low hum vibrated in his chest, like the planet itself was breathing. The Talarac called it the voice of rivers. They reached a stone plaza where the elders of the herd's settlement waited. Massive constructs of bone, polished stone, and woven reeds formed a semicircle, each adorned with flowing tapestries dyed in deep reds and blues. The elders' eyes glimmered with caution. Va Rin gestured to Daniel. "This human survived our sacred waters. He asks to learn, to serve. Judge him." One elder stepped forward, scales glinting in copper light. "Survive, yes, but to serve, that is another challenge." Daniel held his head high. "I serve those who deserve it. I serve life itself. Yours, ours, everything that survives on this planet." Another elder's voice was softer, like a river running over stones. "Then you must prove it, not with words, not with courage alone. With deeds." "Deeds," Daniel echoed. His mind raced. Every scenario he'd trained for in simulations, every contingency for first contact, none of it prepared him for what came next. Va Rin's tail lashed sharply. "Tonight, you join the herd's patrol. You will ride among them. You will see the predators that lurk beyond the river's reach. Survive that, and you may yet earn your place." Daniel's heart jumped. Patrols were dangerous, a mix of reconnaissance and defense. Humans weren't built for the extremes of Carthalan-S night, with its nocturnal predators that could kill a Talarac in seconds. But he grinned anyway. "Consider me ready," he said, flexing his fingers, tasting the metallic tang of anticipation. Va Rin's eyes flicked toward the horizon, where shadows moved among jagged rocks. "Then follow closely. One mistake, and your flesh will feed the land. We do not forgive weakness easily." Daniel stepped forward, following her into the tall grass. He could feel the eyes of the herd on him, hearing their low calls vibrate through the soles of his boots. The predators were near. He could sense them before even seeing them. A hiss cut through the airlow, sharp and utterly alien. The ground trembled as something massive moved just beyond the glow of the dying sun. Daniel drew a breath. Human blood thrummed in his veins. He had survived the sacred water. Now he would face the real test. Daniel crouched beside the stone basin, the murky water rippling at his fingertips. Varen's amber eyes narrowed, but she did not stop him. Around them, the Talaric warriors shifted, tails flicking and claws scraping against stone. The air smelled of iron and wet moss, alive with the herd's deep hum. He lowered his hands to cup the water, thick, earthy, and alive. Every swallow tasted like moving rivers, like mineral and history and life itself. His stomach churned, but his training kicked in. He forced it down, tasted every strand of alien microbiota, and survived. Vierin took a step forward. "You endure what soft flesh should not," she said, her voice still sharp, tinged with awe. "Why?" Daniel wiped his lips. "Because if I don't, humans die. Your water, your herd, your planet. It all matters. Not just to you." Her head tilted. It was the closest thing he'd seen to curiosity in a Talarak expression. Then she gestured to the stones marking the herd's grazing zones. "You would survive among us." "Among the herd?" He raised an eyebrow. "I survive. That's what humans do." Varen studied him a long moment, then turned and clacked her claws on the stone. The herd shifted. Daniel felt the vibrations through the ground. From behind her, other Talarak stepped forward, some carrying weapons, some simply observing. One of them, smaller than Varen but equally armored, stepped close. Its voice was a low, vibrating hum. "You come from Sky Vessel. You speak boldly to her. Why should we trust you?" "Because I have no choice," Daniel said. "We need water. Your rivers are clean. I can work with that. I can help you too, your technology, your patrols, your defenses. Humans are resourceful." The alien hesitated, glancing at Varen. Resourceful or reckless? Daniel smirked, though his stomach was twisting from the alien water. "Yes?" Varen raised a claw. "Enough. He may speak human bravado, but his actions are what matters. Follow me." Before he could protest, Daniel was moving alongside her, weaving between massive grazing creatures that flicked their tails and snorted. The herd's low hum vibrated in his chest, like the planet itself was breathing. The Talarak called it the voice of rivers. They reached a stone plaza where the elders of the herd's settlement waited. Massive constructs of bone, polished stone, and woven reeds formed a semicircle, each adorned with flowing tapestries dyed in deep reds and blues. The elders' eyes glimmered with caution. Vierin gestured to Daniel. "This human survived our sacred waters. He asks to learn, to serve. Judge him." One elder stepped forward, scales glinting in copper light. "Survive, yes, but to serve. That is another challenge." Daniel held his head high. "I serve those who deserve it. I serve life itself. Yours, ours. Ours everything that survives on this planet." Another elder's voice was softer, like a river running over stones. "Then you must prove it. Not with words, not with courage alone, with deeds." "Deeds?" Daniel echoed. His mind raced. Every scenario he'd trained for in simulations, every contingency for first contact, none of it prepared him for what came next. Vierin's tail lashed sharply. "Tonight, you join the herd's patrol. You will ride among them. You will see the predators that lurk beyond the river's reach. Survive that, and you may yet earn your place." Daniel's heart jumped. Patrols were dangerous, a mix of reconnaissance and defense. Humans weren't built for the extremes of Kartalin's night, with its nocturnal predators that could kill a Talarik in seconds. But he grinned anyway. "Consider me ready," he said, flexing his fingers, tasting the metallic tang of anticipation. Va'rin's eyes flicked toward the horizon, where shadows moved among jagged rocks. "Then follow closely. One mistake, and your flesh will feed the land. We do not forgive weakness easily." Daniel stepped forward, following her into the tall grass. He could feel the eyes of the herd on him, hearing their low calls vibrate through the soles of his boots. The predators were near. He could sense them before even seeing them. A hiss cut through the airlow, sharp and utterly alien. The ground trembled as something massive moved just beyond the glow of the dying sun. Daniel drew a breath. Human blood thrummed in his veins. He had survived the sacred water. Now he would face the real test. Night fell quickly on Carthalin, painting the copper skies in bruised purples and deep indigo. Daniel's boots pressed against the damp soil of the river flats as he followed Varen. The herd moved with them, low hums resonating through the ground like the heartbeat of the planet itself. Each step sent shivers up his spine. Every rustle in the grass made him tense. "This terrain is alive," Varen said, her amber eyes scanning the darkness. "You must listen, not just see. The predators hear differently, smell differently. They strike without warning." Daniel nodded, careful to mimic her slow, deliberate steps. The first night was more than physical, it was sensory overload. The rich, wet scent of river wheat, the coppery tamps of the herd, the acrid, distant smell of predators lurking beyond the illuminated glades. His human senses were sharp, but even he realized the planet demanded more than instinct. Suddenly, a low growl rolled through the grass. One of the smaller herdlings froze, ears twitching, horn crests vibrating. Daniel felt it before he heard it. The ground trembled in pulses too strong to be his imagination. V.A. Rin hissed sharply, "Stay close. Watch their eyes. Move with them." From the shadows, a predator emerged, massive, four-legged, with scales like fractured obsidian and eyes that glowed faintly in the starlight. It moved with a predator's grace, tail swishing, jaws clicking in anticipation. The herd shifted around it, a living wall of horns and muscle. Daniel's pulse surged. This was more than survival training. This was immersion into alien life. He had to think fast. "Ride with me," Varen commanded, motioning to a ridge where the terrain sloped upward. "Observe. Learn." He scrambled to keep pace, adrenaline sharpening his reflexes. The predator circled the herd, testing gaps, probing for weakness. Daniel noticed subtle signs, the way its tail twitched before it lunged, how it focused on slower herdlings, how the ground itself seemed to signal its intent. "They communicate," he murmured to himself, almost reverently. "Not like humans. But they do." Varen glanced at him, her expression unreadable. "You see more than expected. Perhaps humans are not as blind as I feared." A sudden shriek split the night. One herdling had stumbled, caught in the predator's jaws. Instinctively, Daniel surged forward, drawing a compact human blade he'd strapped to his thigh. The predator paused, unnervingly intelligent. As if assessing his threat, V.A. Rin leaped beside him, bone blade flashing in the moonlight. Together, Human and Talarak pushed the predator back, forcing it to retreat into the shadows. Daniel exhaled, heart hammering. "We did it." Varen's tail flicked sharply. "We survived. But this is only the beginning. Survival alone does not grant trust." As the herd regrouped, Daniel realized he had been immersed into something bigger than any human simulation or survival manual, an alien culture, bound by life and water, where trust was earned through deeds and courage, not diplomacy. The Talarak turned, motioning him to follow. "You will remain among us. Learn the ways of the herd. You will eat what we eat, drink as we drink, move as we move. Only then will you understand our strength and your own." Daniel hesitated, glancing at the murky river water, then at the sacred basin they had left behind. Drinking the Talarak water had been a test. Living among them, sharing the same food, the same dangers, was a commitment, a challenge, a chance to prove humanity mattered here. "I accept," he said finally. "I'll do what it takes." Varen's amber eyes softened just slightly. "Then follow, observe, adapt. Do not falter." He fell into step with the herd, his senses now fully attuned to their rhythms. Every rustle of leaf, every vibration through the soil, every low hum of the herd was a message. But, as the night deepened, Daniel caught movement beyond the ridge, silhouettes moving faster than any predator he had encountered, sleek, metallic reflections against the starlight. Not hunting. Watching. Va, Rin noticed his glance. "You sense it too," she said, voice low. "We are not alone. Others are near humans may think themselves the only outsiders, but Carthulin hides more than beasts." Daniel's stomach tightened. Survival among the herd had been the first test. Now, the world was about to teach him something far more dangerous, that even here, in alien company, humanity might not be the only threator, the only prey. Asterisk. The sun had risen high over Carthulin, but its copper glare offered no comfort. Daniel Mercer crouched behind a ridge with Varen at his side, muscles aching, lungs burning. The humans, in black exosuits, Halden and his strike team had advanced with lethal precision, their drones hovering like metal vultures above the herd. The Talarak warriors formed a defensive line around the herd, their bone blades glinted, tails swaying like living weapons. Daniel could feel the ground vibrating with tension, the low hum of the herd, amplified by fear and instinct. Daniel gritted his teeth. "We can't let them take the water," he said. "Not after everything. We have to." Varen cut him off with a sharp gesture. "Not yet. Wait for the rhythm." The predators in the night, showed you their patterns. The humans are different. They do not follow instinct. They adapt unpredictably. Predictably unpredictable. Daniel's stomach twisted. He had underestimated the reach of human ruthlessness. Now it was bearing down on them. A sudden flare of energy lit the ridge. One of Halden's drones fired a disintegrator beam into the herd, cutting through the tall grasses. The herd panicked. Massive grazers bolted, horns slashing through stone markers. Dust and cries filled the air. "Hold!" Varen shouted, claws extended. She charged into the fray, striking at one of the exosuited humans. The contact was brutal. Sparks flew as bone blade met alloy armor, and Daniel lunged after her, trying to intercept another assailant. But Halden's team had anticipated human adaptability. They coordinated using stun nets and sonic pulses to separate the herd. Daniel's efforts were scattered, desperate, chaotic. One of the drones fired a pulse directly at him. He rolled aside, feeling the shockwave slam into his ribs, knocking the wind out of him. The herd's defenses crumbled. Grazers stampeded, trampling the riverbanks, splashing murky water into the dust-filled air. Daniel's vision blurred with chaos. Telluric warriors struggling to hold formation. Humans pressing their attack. Drones worry above. Varen roared in frustration, a sound that vibrated through Daniel's chest. "No, you will not desecrate the herd." Daniel scrambled to protect a small group of frightened herdlings, slashing at nets and driving off a drone with a desperate swing of his blade. But for every success, another setback struck. A surge of exosuit fire pinned Varen to the ground. Daniel saw sparks leap from her bone plate, and a scream tore from his throat. "Varen!" he shouted, charging forward, but a disruptor pulse from one of Halden's weapons knocked him off balance. He landed hard, the world tilting around him. He tried to rise, tried to regroup with the Telluric, but the humans were organized, relentless, and terrifyingly efficient. Within moments, the herd was scattered. Several grazers lay injured, water muddied and splashed across the stone plaza. Daniel's heart sank. Halden's voice cut through the chaos. "Stand down, Mercer. This is bigger than your idealism. The water is ours." Daniel's fists clenched. His chest burned, his mouth dry, but he forced himself to look around. The Telluric were wounded, some recovering, some lying still in the dust. The herd's rhythm was broken, its voice fractured. He had failed to protect it. Va Rin staggered to her feet, her armor scorched, her amber eyes blazing with fury and grief. She stared at Daniel. "This is your doing." Daniel began, but no words could undo the damage. All their training, all his efforts, seemed to crumble in an instant. He had survived the water. He had endured the night patrol. But now, the human threat was beyond mere adaptation. It was organized, ruthless, and indifferent to honor. Halden advanced, weapon raised, while drones hovered, scanning. "Your heroics end here," he said. Daniel looked at Varen, then at the scattered herd, then back at Halden. His chest heaved. He was exhausted, beaten, and yet he refused to surrender, not completely. There was a small glimmer among the Kayasa hidden path along the riverbank, where the predators of Carthalan would rarely dare. Daniel's mind raced. Survival might depend not on fighting back, but on regrouping, learning, and striking in a way Halden would never expect. But could he save the herd? Could he survive the wrath of Halden's team while keeping his fragile alliance with the Telluric intact? The sun beat down mercilessly, painting blood-red streaks across the plains, and Daniel knew, with a sinking certainty, that this setback was only the beginning. Daniel pressed himself against the riverbank, heart hammering, lungs burning. The herd had scattered across the plains, frightened and wounded. Varen crouched beside him, bone blade resting lightly on her shoulder, amber eyes flicking over the retreating humans in black exosuits. Not with the herd in chaos, not with their tech. Varen's tail twitched, brushing the dust. "Humans are clever, yes, but we have patience. We have knowledge of this world that your exosuits cannot anticipate." Daniel nodded, swallowing back the dry taste of failure. "Then we hit them where they least expected." "Yes," Varen said sharply. "We use the river, its currents, its depth, the predators that lurk beneath. You've learned their patterns during the night patrol. Now, we turn that knowledge into strength." Daniel's eyes narrowed. He had spent days moving with the herd, feeling the vibrations of the soil. noticing every subtle shift in the predator's hunting paths, the Talarak's water rituals, the river's hum, the echoes of the hurdle of it had become a part of him. They had trained him without words. The first step was regrouping the survivors. Daniel moved carefully through the tall grasses, calling softly to injured grazers, guiding them toward safer terrain along the riverbank. Varen covered him, swiping at any drone that hovered too low, claws scraping sparks from alloy shells. "Good," she said quietly, watching him work. "You've adapted faster than I expected. Perhaps humanity is more than soft flesh and arrogance." Daniel smiled grimly. "Takes desperate circumstances to bring out the best, I guess." By midday, a small contingent of the herd had gathered in a concealed bend of the river, water deep and swift. Predators from the night lurked unseen beneath the currents, their massive forms coiled in the shadows. Daniel felt the vibrations beneath his boots attuned to the lurking threat, and relayed signals to Varen. "We'll force the humans into the river," he said. "They rely on tech, not instincts. One misstep, and they'll be vulnerable." Varen nodded. "We move at my signal. Keep your timing precise." As the humans advanced again, confident and unaware, Daniel and Varen struck. The Talaric warriors emerged from the shadows, forcing Halden's team toward the river bend. Daniel darted between them, using his knowledge of human combat and Carthalan's terrain to guide the herdlings and weaker warriors into protective formations. A disruptor beam cracked through the air, narrowly missing Daniel. He ducked behind a boulder, scanning for Halden. The commander's visor glinted in the sunlight as he shouted orders, coordinating drones with ruthless efficiency. "Now," Varen hissed. Daniel lunged, shouting to the herdlings to stampede in a controlled charge. The grazers surged, horns lowered, driving the humans toward the river. The water churned as predators beneath the surface sensed movement. Slipping silently toward the unsuspecting exosuits, panic flashed in Halden's eyes. Drones whirred frantically, attempting to stabilize, but the current and predators worked against them. Sparks and screams echoed as the water claimed drones and knocked. Exosuits off balance, Daniel and Varen moved with lethal precision, striking at isolated humans, forcing them further into the river. Every move was synchronized. The humans' efficiency undone by a combination of alien instinct, knowledge of terrain, and sheer human adaptability. When the last of Halden's strike team was disoriented and trapped, Daniel stood in the shallow current, chest heaving, mud and river water coating him. Varen stepped beside him, eyes glowing with approval. "You survived the humans. You protected the herd. You adapted," she said. "This is what I hoped for in the beginning, Mercer. Humanity is not soft. It is cunning. It is relentless." Daniel let himself smile for the first time in hours. "Guess that's why we keep showing up, huh?" Varen's gaze flicked upstream toward the rising sun. "The war is not over. But now, you have proven you are more than flesh. You are part of this herd." And together, a sudden movement in the river's shadow made Daniel stiffen. But this time, he wasn't alone. He had allies Talaric and humans alike, who understood that survival required unity, not betrayal, and it burned brighter than the copper sky above. The sky over Carthalan had darkened to a bruised violet, the copper sun long gone, leaving the plains bathed in twilight. Daniel Mercer crouched beside Varen atop a jagged outcrop, overlooking the river bend where Halden and his remaining exosuit team regrouped. Sparks from damaged drones reflected like tiny stars on the water's surface, and the low hum of the herd thrummed through Daniel's bones. Steadying him, "This ends tonight," Varen said, amber eyes sharp as knives. "They will not take the herd's water. They will not desecrate Carthalan further." Daniel flexed his fingers around his blade, mud and river water crusted under his nails. "Agreed, but we can't just rush them. They've adapted since the last attack. We need the herd, the predators, the river. Everything." Varen's tail twitched. "Everything. You've learned our ways. Now, act like one of us. Command the herd." Command. Daniel exhaled, feeling the vibrations beneath the stone and unspoken rhythm connecting him to the grazers. He moved his hands, subtle gestures honed over days of observation. The herd responded. Grazers shifted, heads lowered, tails lashing in unison. Even predators lurking in the river stirred, drawn by the movement and scent. Halden noticed immediately. "Mercer," he shouted, panic rising in his voice. "They're coordinating. disperse the herd. Daniel ducked as a disruptor pulse scorched the ground near his feet. "Not this time," he muttered. He tapped into the knowledge Varen had shared the herd's instinctive signals. The river's flow, the predator's hunting rhythm. Together, they formed a living trap. The humans advanced, but every step drove them closer to the riverbank. Predators erupted from the shadows, sleek obsidian shapes, snapping jaws and knocking drones off balance. Grazers stampeded, horns swinging with terrifying precision, cutting off escape routes. Daniel and Varen moved between the chaos, striking at isolated humans with swift, controlled force. Halden cursed, realizing his advantage had vanished. Pull back, he shouted, but the current of Carthalan had already claimed the initiative. The river churned violently, predators guiding the humans' movements like invisible hands. Daniel lunged at Halden as the commander, attempted to escape toward a partially submerged drone. Boneblade met Alloy in a clash that sparked brightly under the fading light. Halden's visor cracked, revealing a human face twisted in fury. "Mercer, this is survival." "Not like this," Daniel growled. With a decisive strike, he forced Halden into the water, the current swallowing the exosuit as predators closed in. The remaining humans, scattered and demoralized, surrendered under the relentless push of the herd.va. Rin's roar echoed over the plains, a sound of triumph and fury intertwined. The herd had reclaimed its territory. The river shimmered, predators slipping silently back into the depths, grazers resettling along the banks. Daniel sank to his knees, exhausted, every muscle screaming. Yet a surge of exhilaration burned through him. "You have proven yourself, Mercer, not through weapons alone, but through understanding, courage, and unity. Humanity has strength, after all." Daniel wiped mud from his brow, letting himself smile for the first time in days. "We fight, we adapt, we survive. That's what humans do." She studied him a long moment. "And you have reminded us that survival is not merely instinct. It is choice. It is honor. You chose the herd over fear, the alliance over self-preservation." Behind them, the herd moved in synchronized grace, their low hum vibrating through the soil resonance of life, loyalty, and triumph. Daniel felt it deep in his chest, the pulse of an alien world acknowledging him not just as a survivor, but as a comrade. He glanced at the horizon. The river glowed faintly under the moonlight. Carthalan-esque predators and grazers coexisting in a delicate balance of power. The humans had retreated, their arrogance drowned in the current, their plans undone by cooperation and courage. Va Rin's voice broke his reverie. "You will remain with us, if you choose. There is more to learn, more to protect. Carthalan is not yet done testing you." Daniel stood tall, exhaustion and exhilaration warring in his chest. "I choose not just to survive, but to defend, to prove that humans can stand for more than themselves." Her tail brushed the earth in approval. "Then stand among us with honor, and let Carthalan witness what your kind is capable of." As the stars of a foreign sky sparkled above them, Daniel felt a surge of belonging stronger than any human city, any colony ship. The fight had been brutal, the setbacks costly, but humanity and the alliance he had forged had prevailed. And in the stillness of the river plains, Carthalan hummed a song of life renewed. A song that Daniel Mercer now shared in, pulse for pulse, step for step. The morning sun stretched across the plains of Carthalan, painting the river and herds in gold and deep copper. The air smelled of wet soil and riverweed, alive with the low, steady hum of grazers settling back into their routines. Daniel Mercer stood at the edge of the herd, boots sinking slightly into the damp earth, and watched as life returned to normal, or as close to normal as it could be after the chaos of the past days. Va Rin approached, her bone blade resting across her shoulder. Amber eyes gleamed not with the intensity of battle, but with quiet approval. "You have endured much, human," she said. "You have learned our ways, earned our trust, and protected the herd when your own species sought to betray it." Daniel let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. "I didn't just survive," he said quietly. "I fought for more than myself. I fought for them. For you." Varen nodded. "And that is why you will remain among us, if you choose. The herd is strong again. The river flows untainted, and predators and grazers alike respect the balance once more. But the galaxy will not leave us untouched. Other humans, other threats, they will come. Daniel glanced down at the river, watching the grazers drink, and predators slip silently beneath the surface. He thought of HumAlien and his exosuit team, defeated and retreating beyond the horizon. Their betrayal had cost them, but it had also tested him in ways no simulation could. "I choose to stay," Daniel said finally, "not just to survive, but to help protect this world, to show that humanity can be more than ruthless ambition." Varen's tail flicked approvingly. "Then you are no longer merely a human in flesh. You are part of the herd, part of the river, part of Carthona itself over the coming days." Daniel trained alongside the Talarak warriors, learning to anticipate the herd's movements, read the river's currents, and communicate subtly with both grazers and predators. He shared human knowledge-improvised tools, strategies, and understanding of technology with the Talarak, who in turn taught him ancient customs, rituals, and survival skills honed over millennia. Word of his deeds spread through the herd and across Carthona. Stories of the soft-fleshed human who drank the sacred water and survived became legend. Whispered among elders and sung by the herd's musicians, humanity, at least this one human, had earned a place in a world that had once seemed utterly alien. Daniel stood at the riverbank one evening, watching the sun melt into the horizon. The sky was a wash of violet and copper, familiar and alien all at once. Varen joined him silently. "You have changed this place," she said softly, "and perhaps you have changed yourself as well." Daniel smiled, tasting the metallic temps of the river on his tongue. "I have, and maybe humans can change too. Not all of us are like HumAlien." Varen's eyes flicked toward the distant ridges. Shadows moved their watchers, perhaps her predators unseen. The galaxy was vast, and danger never truly ended. "But for now," she said, "the herd is safe, and that is enough." Daniel knelt, cupping water in his hands, feeling the pulse of life flowing through it. He drank slowly, reverently, thinking of the days ahead, the challenges, the alliances, the unknown threats, but also of the unity, trust, and courage that had brought him this far. He looked at Varen, then at the herd, then at the sky above. Humanity had survived. Humanity had triumphed, not through domination, but through understanding, bravery, and choice. And on this alien world, far from Earth, Daniel Mercer felt something he had never felt before. Home. The river flowed. The herd thrummed. Carthalin was alive, and humanity had earned its place.